The spectacle of the woke Episcopal Priestess at the National Prayer Service is not just an isolated incident but a symptom of a broader, more troubling trend within contemporary religious leadership. This phenomenon, where personal ideologies are cloaked under the sacred garb of religious authority, has sparked considerable controversy, reflecting a deep-seated concern about the authenticity of modern religious leaders. At the heart of this issue is the exploitation of the Church's traditional veneer for personal gain, be it ideological, political, or even criminal. The priestess in question, whose remarks seemed more aligned with contemporary political activism than spiritual guidance, epitomizes this shift. Her presence at such a significant event was not merely a moment of progressive inclusion, but rather an emblematic example of how religious platforms can be co-opted to serve agendas far removed from the core tenets of faith. The Church, historically seen as a sanctuary for spiritual comfort and ethical direction, has increasingly turned into a venue for cultural and ideological conflicts. This development underscores and critiques the overemphasis on social justice in religious contexts, questioning the appropriateness of how such themes are integrated. When a religious leader leverages their role mainly to push forward political or social agendas, it casts doubt on their authenticity as a spiritual guide. Are they truly caretakers of their congregation, or merely activists exploiting the Church as their platform? This leads to the broader, more disturbing realization that many individuals ascend to religious leadership roles under false pretenses. The sanctity of the role they assume is often overshadowed by their ulterior motives. This trend isn't limited to just one denomination or faith, but is a pervasive issue across various religious landscapes. These individuals, whether they identify as woke or hold other ideological stances, manipulate the trust and faith of their congregations to promote views that might not align with the spiritual or doctrinal foundations of the religion they claim to serve. Moreover, this phenomenon isn't merely about spreading ideologies. There's a darker, more insidious aspect where some religious leaders are not religious in any traditional sense. These individuals are wolves in sheep's clothing, using the mantle of religious leadership to engage in criminal activities. Under the protective cloak of religious freedom enshrined in the United States Constitution, they perpetrate fraud, abuse, and other malevolent acts. The Constitution's guarantee of religious freedom was intended to allow for the free practice of faith without state interference, a noble and necessary right. However, this freedom has been exploited by those who see it not as a protection for spiritual practice, but as a shield for criminality. From financial scams under the guise of religious fundraising to the abuse of power within the confines of religious institutions, these leaders betray the very essence of what they are supposed to represent. This exploitation not only betrays the trust of those seeking spiritual guidance, but also undermines the credibility of religious institutions as a whole. When the public eye catches these betrayals, as it inevitably does, the fallout affects all of faith, tainting the perception of religious leaders and causing widespread disillusionment. Congregants, once trusting, become skeptical. The faithful question their faith, and the secular world points to these incidents as evidence of religion's inherent hypocrisy or corruption. The challenge, then, is not just identifying these false shepherds, but also understanding the mechanisms that allow such figures to rise to prominence. Part of this lies in the sometimes lax oversight within religious bodies, where the selection and accountability of leaders might be more influenced by external pressures or internal politics than by spiritual merit. Additionally, there's the allure of power and influence that comes with religious leadership, which can attract individuals more interested in these worldly gains than in spiritual service. Addressing this multifaceted issue requires a concerted effort from within the religious community itself. Religious institutions must strengthen their governance, implement rigorous vetting processes for leaders, and foster environments where transparency and accountability are not just preached but practiced. Education for congregants about the signs of genuine versus exploitative leadership could also serve as a safeguard against the infiltration of false prophets. While the woke Episcopal Priestess at the National Prayer Service might be dismissed by some as merely an example of cultural shift or progressive overreach, she stands as a stark reminder of a deeper malaise. Church congregants must be on guard against those who would use its sacred spaces and symbols not for divine worship but for personal gain or ideological battles. It is crucial for the sanctity of religious practice and the protection of the faithful that we critically examine and reform how we select, empower, and hold accountable those who claim to lead in faith.